In this video, I want to go over comping like a 2/3 mambo vibe on something like a night in Tunisia in a jazz setting. I hear all too often piano player comping sporadically or in cross clave, and it kind of confuses things. It doesn't keep the flow, the 2-bar flow that's presented in bebop music. So in this case, you can combine a lot of the mambo elements into this and make it sound connected and flow. So this may help for a lot of jazz musicians checking this out. First thing is there's a basic pattern that you can go over and use that pattern, repeat it as the changes move on, just keep repeating it through the same changes. I have the pattern here on the screen, but so you can hear it, the first bar of the pattern goes, right? So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, and that's the first bar. The second bar, 1, 2, 3, 4, is just 2 hits essentially, but it has just the right amount of hits to define the 2 and the 3 side of the clave. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. So what you're doing there is you're playing the first bar of E flat 7 and then second bar D minor, exact same way as in the tune, on the standard. But the only difference is when you get to the D minor part in the second bar, you got to anticipate that first chord, which happens a lot in the bass and in the piano, in the harmonic movement, is anticipated most of the time. So once again, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, and 3, 4. So you change the D minor on the and a 4 on that first bar. With the bass, 1, 2, 3, 4. Some people put an extra hit at the end, and it sounds funny. It sounds more Brazilian to me if it sounds like this. 1, 2, 3. It sounds a lot more Brazilian. You can kind of muddy it up in a way, and it's not as defined as being something that's coming from mambo idiom or the kubop setting, right? So if you want to do Brazilian, then you would put them all on the upbeats. Which is a lot different than this. Feeling wise. The other thing is the bass player sometimes will do this Brazilian thing. Watch out for that. I mean, just ignore it if it happens. It's not that big of a deal, but it can definitely also muddy up the feel. So for bass players watching this, you want to keep it a strict mambo bass line. Or the classic 3/4, right? And you can see how playing the pattern that way with that 3/4 bass line, it has a certain feel to it that will make people dance. So going throughout the entire tune with this pattern would sound like this. 1, 2, 1, 2, 3, 4. not playing around with that pattern, but I am playing a little bit with the voicings. So feel free to mess around with that. I wouldn't do it. Once you start playing with the pattern, it gets a little funny. It feels funny, it sounds funny if you're doing. It just sounds real funny. It doesn't really have the drive anymore. But that combined with that bass line on 3 and 4, it's a nice pattern to learn, to have in your arsenal. You can use it in all types. If you were to do You Stepped Out of a Dream or anything, if you wanted to convert swing tune to like more of a Latin jazz setting, same thing. 2/3 will work for most of this. Even something like My Little Suede Shoes. You got, and it should sound really good. Unless the bass player is doing something weird, but then you can't control everything. You just got to do your part and really focus on what you're doing. So that's using the mambo elements inside of jazz or some swing. Inside of standards, you could do You Stepped Out of a Dream. You could use it for Bolivia if somebody's going into like a Latin thing during the modal section. You can use it in a ton of stuff. But this is specifically a 2/3 pattern. More about that in another video. It's not a 2/3 pattern, but we're using it in the 2/3 concept or 2/3 context right now. So try to work that out. Let me know how that feels and what you're able to get from that. And I will talk to you guys later.